Welcome to Life Stories. Today, we bring you an inspiring tale of love, betrayal, and personal transformation. Meet Emma, a woman who, after being heartlessly abandoned by her husband Tom for a younger woman, finds herself on a journey of self-discovery and strength. With the support of an old friend, Sam, Emma learns the power of perseverance and begins to reclaim her life. This story is a powerful reminder that no matter how hard life may seem, we always have the ability to rise again. Stay tuned to see how Emma's journey unfolds. Don't forget to subscribe to begin today's story. Tom and I had always been a couple who believed in love and perseverance. From the very beginning, our marriage was built on the simple idea that as long as we were together, nothing else could break us. It wasn't always easy, of course. There were long, sleepless nights where we held each other and wondered when things would finally improve. But through it all, we held on to a single truth: one day, things would get better. And for 3 years, we fought side by side against the challenges that life had thrown at us. Our financial struggles were many. There were times when we barely had enough to pay the rent, when the food on our table was sparse, and when I had to cut corners just to make sure we could keep the lights on. Yet, we never gave up hope. I believed in Tom. I believed in us. He had big dreams, and I was right there beside him, supporting him every step of the way. I thought, if we could just hold on a little longer, that day would come where everything would finally click into place. Then one day, that day seemed to arrive. Tom got an invitation to a high-profile business meeting. The invitation was from a company he had admired for years. It was the kind of opportunity that would change everything for us. The kind of opportunity that Tom had worked so hard for. I kissed him goodbye that morning, wishing him success, never imagining that when he left, everything I thought I knew about our life together would unravel before my eyes. Days passed, and I waited eagerly for his return. I imagined the excitement in his voice when he would tell me about the big breakthrough, the good news that would finally end our struggles. But as the hours stretched into days, I began to feel a growing sense of unease. He wasn't answering his phone, and I couldn't help but worry. At first, I thought maybe he was just caught up in the business meetings. It wasn't unusual for him to get wrapped up in work. But then, as time passed, I knew something wasn't right. I left message after message, but he didn't respond. The silence felt like a heavy weight on my chest. I called friends, trying to find out where he was, but no one had heard from him either. My anxiety grew with each passing hour. Finally, the call came. A friend of Tom's called me with the shocking news. Tom had checked into a luxurious hotel in the city. Confused and desperate for answers, I rushed to the hotel. My heart was racing. What was going on? Why hadn't he told me about this? When I walked into the hotel, the air felt thick with tension. I looked around the lobby, my eyes scanning the room, searching for him, and then, there he was, standing in the middle of the elegant hotel lounge, dressed in expensive clothes, looking completely different from the man I had married. He looked richer, more confident, as though he had transformed into someone I didn't recognize. But what shocked me even more than his appearance was the woman standing beside him. A young woman, beautiful, elegant, and possessive. She had her arm wrapped around his, and she was looking at me like she had every right to be there. I was frozen in place for a moment. The words I had been rehearsing in my mind suddenly caught in my throat. The shock hit me like a punch to the stomach. I had never imagined this. I gathered all my strength and walked toward them, my voice shaking as I spoke. Tom, what is going on? I've been calling you for days. You told me about the contract. Did you win it? And who is this woman? Before Tom could even open his mouth, the woman sneered at me. I'm Grace, Tom's wife now. He doesn't have time for someone like you. A big pig like you. Her words hit me like a slap. I could feel my heart shattering into a million pieces. How dare you call me that? I whispered, my voice filled with pain. But the sting of her insult was nothing compared to the emptiness I felt inside. I turned to Tom, searching his face for any sign of remorse, any hint that this was some kind of mistake. But there was nothing. His face was cold, indifferent, Don't bother looking for me again. Emma, Tom said, his voice sharp. I'm done with you. Those words pierced my soul. My heart shattered into even more pieces than before. So, you don't love me anymore? Just because you got rich? I asked, barely able to hold myself together. Tom didn't even look at me. He turned to Grace, pulling her closer to him, and kissed her right in front of me. I felt like the air had been knocked out of my lungs. The woman I had supported, the man I had loved, both of them rejecting me in the most painful way. At that moment, as I stood there feeling like my world had been ripped away, a stranger walked past me and stopped. He stared at me for a moment, then stepped closer, his eyes wide with recognition. Excuse me, are you Emma? I turned to look at him, still in shock. As soon as I saw his face, my heart skipped a beat. Sam? I gasped. Sam, my childhood neighbor, the boy I had gone to school with, the one I hadn't seen in years. But now, standing before me, he wasn't the same boy I remembered. The man before me was powerful, confident, and wealthy. The transformation was incredible. Sam, is that really you? I whispered, hardly believing it. It's been a long time. Emma, Sam said, his voice warm and genuine. I've missed you. He reached out to pull me into a hug. And for a moment, I allowed myself to feel the warmth of his embrace. It was a small comfort in the midst of the pain I was feeling. Tears started to well up in my eyes. I missed you too, Sam, I whispered through the tears. Sam's expression darkened as he looked over at Tom and Grace. Then back at me. I saw what just happened. Is that your husband? I nodded, choking back a sob. He was my husband, until now. He called me fat and threw me away for someone else. After 3 years of marriage. He's divorcing me. Sam's jaw clenched with anger. Interesting, he said quietly, his voice filled with determination. Don't worry, Emma, I'll handle this. He turned back toward the door, guiding me gently away from the hotel lobby. I didn't even look back at Tom. It was as though the man I had loved, the man I had given everything for, no longer existed. He had thrown me away. But now, I was going to find my way again. With Sam by my side, I knew I would find the strength to rebuild my life. As I left the hotel, still in shock, I felt like my whole world had come crashing down. But Sam, the man who had been my childhood friend, was now offering me something I hadn't expected, hope. Come with me, Emma, he said gently. You don't have to go through this alone. I followed him to his car. Barely speaking, my mind was reeling, my emotions all over the place. The pain of being abandoned by Tom. The humiliation of being rejected for someone else. It was all too much. As we drove, the silence between us felt heavy. Sam glanced at me occasionally, his expression soft, as if he knew I was struggling, but didn't want to push me to talk. When we arrived at Sam's house, I was stunned. The mansion stood before me, majestic and imposing. The tall pillars, the lush gardens, and the sparkling fountains made it feel like something out of a movie. I had never seen a place like this before. Sam, however, didn't seem fazed. He simply smiled and said, "This is my house. One of them, anyway." He led me inside, and I was even more amazed. The interior was even grander than the outside. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling. The furniture was elegant, and the whole space exuded luxury. But what caught my attention most was the feeling of calmness in the air. There was no tension, no bitterness. It felt like a safe haven. And in that moment, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. "I'll take care of you, Emma," Sam said as we entered the kitchen. "You don't have to worry about anything right now. Just focus on healing." I nodded, though I felt the sting of my pain. How could I heal after everything Tom had done to me? How could I forget how easily he had discarded me? But Sam's words gave me something to hold on to. Maybe this was the beginning of something new. Maybe, with time, I could let go of the past. As I sat in the kitchen, my eyes wandered over the shelves stocked with the best ingredients. The kitchen was massive, far beyond anything I had ever imagined. And that's when my gaze landed on something. It was a book, tucked away on a shelf. It had a simple title, Chinese weight loss secrets. Curiosity stirred in me, and I picked it up. As I flipped through the pages, I found detailed recipes for herbal teas and diet plans that promised to help with weight loss. I felt a small spark of hope igniting inside me. Could this be the key to transforming not just my body, but my life? Sam noticed my interest. Interested in that book? He asked, leaning against the doorframe with a smile. It belonged to my mom. She used to be overweight when I was a kid, but she followed the methods in that book and completely transformed herself. I was taken aback. Really? Do you have a picture of her? Sam pulled out his phone and showed me a photo of his mother. The woman in the picture was slender, graceful, and absolutely stunning. She worked hard, Sam said, his voice full of pride. And if you want to try it, I can help you. I stared at the picture, a sense of awe filling me. I had always struggled with my weight, but I had never believed that I could truly change. Yet, something about Sam's offer made me believe it was possible. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I had a chance to regain control of my life. To become the person I had always wanted to be. I think I'll give it a shot, I said, a small smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. And with that, something inside me shifted. I wasn't just doing this for Tom or for anyone else. I was doing it for me. I was ready to change, to find the strength that had been buried deep within me all along. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but with Sam's support, I knew I could begin anew. In the following days, I began to follow the book's advice. It wasn't easy. The herbal teas tasted strange, and adjusting to a healthy diet felt like a challenge. There were moments when I wanted to give up, to go back to the comfort of my old habits. But I kept pushing forward. I wasn't just doing this for my body, I was doing this to reclaim my confidence. To prove to myself that I could be more than what Tom had made me feel. Every time I felt weak, Sam was there. He would encourage me, telling me how proud he was of me, making me laugh, and reminding me that I was stronger than I realized. Each day, I felt myself becoming more confident, more alive. The sadness that had weighed me down for so long slowly began to fade. It was like I was shedding not just the physical weight, but the emotional baggage that had held me back. The woman who had once believed she was unworthy of love and respect was now beginning to see herself in a new light. I was healing, little by little, day by day, and while the road ahead was still long, I knew one thing for sure: I wasn't alone anymore. Sam had become my support, my anchor, and slowly, I was beginning to believe in myself again. My life was taking a new direction, one step at a time. As weeks passed, the changes in me became undeniable. My body was slimming down, but more importantly, my heart was slowly healing. I didn't feel so broken anymore. The pain of Tom's betrayal still lingered, but I had started to focus on myself, on becoming someone who was no longer defined by the past. The diet, the workouts, and the encouragement from Sam had helped me rediscover a strength within that I didn't know I had. I no longer felt like the same woman who had been discarded so easily by Tom. I was becoming someone new, someone confident and strong. One evening, Sam invited me to a high-profile business gala. At first, I hesitated. The thought of stepping into a room full of successful, confident people made me nervous. What if they judged me? What if I still looked like the woman Tom had rejected? But Sam's words reassured me. "Trust me, Emma," he said with a smile. "When they see you, they won't be judging. They'll be staring in admiration." I chose a stunning red gown that hugged my new figure perfectly. As I walked into the gala with Sam, the reactions were immediate. People turned to stare, their whispers a mix of awe and curiosity. I felt a wave of nervousness, but something inside me clicked. This was my moment. I was no longer the insecure woman who had been rejected. I was a woman who had transformed, not just physically, but emotionally. I held my head high and walked into that room with grace and confidence. And then, I saw him. Across the room, I caught a glimpse of Tom. His eyes widened as he saw me. I could see the confusion on his face as he scanned me from head to toe. His once confident posture seemed to falter. He was no longer the man who had discarded me. He was just a man in a sea of successful individuals. Now looking lost, almost desperate, he turned to Grace, his new partner, and nudged her. "Who is that woman?" he asked. His voice filled with surprise. Grace glanced at me, then shrugged. "I don't know, but she's beautiful." Tom walked toward me, his steps hesitant. As he drew closer, his eyes locked onto mine. And the realization hit him. His jaw dropped, his mouth forming a word I couldn't quite hear. "Emma?" he whispered in disbelief. I tilted my head slightly, a small smile playing on my lips. "Hello, Tom," I said, my voice steady, calm. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't heartbroken. I was just done. Sam, who had been silently watching the scene unfold, stepped forward. "Is there a problem, Tom?" Tom swallowed, clearly taken aback by my transformation and the shift in the dynamic between us. I didn't recognize her," he stammered, trying to recover. I could see the regret starting to gnaw at him. But it was too late. It wasn't my job anymore to ease his guilt. I had come to realize that his actions said everything about him. Not about me. Sam smiled knowingly. "Emma has been doing amazing things lately. She's grown into a remarkable woman." Tom's eyes flitted between me and Sam, his jealousy evident. He couldn't quite fathom that the woman he had cast aside was now standing beside someone more powerful, more successful than he could ever be. I raised my hand and casually showed him the stunning diamond ring that Sam had given me. "Yes, Tom, Sam and I are engaged," I said, my voice firm and full of pride. The color drained from Tom's face as he looked at me, and I could feel a moment of triumph rise within me. The man who had once belittled me, rejected me, was now standing before me, humbled by the person I had become. Grace, noticing Tom's discomfort, scoffed. "Oh, Tom, don't tell me you still care about her," she said with a mocking laugh. Tom quickly masked his emotions, but I could see the regret written all over his face. "Of course not," he said, but there was no conviction in his voice. He had believed I was unworthy of his love, and now he saw me standing tall, shining brighter than he ever imagined. Sam leaned in, his voice casual but firm. "You know, Tom, it's been interesting watching you. You thought you were untouchable. But look at you now." Tom was struggling. He had the life he always wanted, wealth, success, a beautiful new partner, but it was clear that he had underestimated one thing: the strength and resilience of a woman he had cast aside. As we continued to mingle, Sam noticed something. "Speaking of surprises," he said, turning to Tom, "about the contract we awarded you." Tom's face immediately changed. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice now full of tension. "I've gone through the reports," Sam said, folding his arms, his expression turning serious, "and I'm not happy with what I see. Your company has failed to deliver on several key aspects of the project. If you don't complete it within the next month, you'll be required to refund the full amount." Tom's face turned pale. "Sam, please, give me more time. I can fix it." Sam's response was firm and final. "Business is business, Tom. You'll report directly to Emma from this point forward." The realization hit Tom like a ton of bricks. The woman he had abandoned, the woman he had called unworthy, was now in charge of his future. He was at my mercy. And it felt good. As time passed, Tom's life continued to unravel. The once proud businessman who had dismissed me as nothing more than a burden was now desperately clinging to what was left of his empire. Every week, I received reports of his failures. The project he was supposed to deliver on was in shambles, and his financial mismanagement was evident. It was almost painful to watch. But I knew I couldn't save him, not anymore. 2 weeks before the final deadline, Grace left him. The woman he had chosen over me walked out when the money dried up. "I didn't sign up for this," she said, throwing her engagement ring on the table. "You're a loser, Tom. You've lost everything." And just like that, she was gone. Meanwhile, my life was flourishing. Sam and I had grown closer. And soon after, we announced our engagement. I stood at the altar on our wedding day, looking at the man who had believed in me when no one else did. I had found love again, not in someone who abandoned me, but in someone who encouraged me to find my own strength. As I looked into Sam's eyes, I realized that losing Tom was the best thing that ever happened to me. I had found myself, rebuilt my life, and learned that my worth was never tied to anyone else's approval. I had become the woman I was always meant to be. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring life stories. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.